Welcome to Construction Hot Takes Podcast. We cut through the nonsense, we get straight to it. Today, I have a surprise topic for Adam.
Wonderful.
He's looking forward to this. He likes this.
I love surprise. Pew, pew.
So the topic today is the real reason that projects blow their budgets. Except I have a proposition for you. It's not the client's fault. It's the contractor's fault.
The general contractor's fault, the trade contractor's fault, or is it like it's my fault?
I'm going to go with the general contractor and trade contractor, that partnership.
Okay.
It's not on the owner's side of the equation. Let's just say it that way.
So
I'm going to walk.
So why do we blow a budget and it's not the client's fault?
That's right. That's the.
What are the internal reasons?
The suggestion is we've gotten very good in this business of blaming the owner for all the reasons why projects maybe go south. Mm-hmm. And my suggestion is, well, that may not necessarily always be true. We need to own this as an industry.
Sure.
Trade contractors, general contractors. So I thought what we could do is walk through the phases of a project, talk about these very distinct phases and where during those phases, how budgets can get out of whack.
Sure, it's the estimator's fault.
Well, that you could start there. So
the estimator did not do a good job, and the budget was bullshit to begin with.
So we're going to just the idea is So I'm going to frame this by phase, and then we're going to talk by phase, just expose where decisions can be made, where there's mistakes typically seen.
Where I've made mistakes?
Where you've made mistakes?
Oh, I have a few examples of where I've royally screwed up and blown my budget.
Got it. So,
okay.
Sorry. So we're going to break it down.
No matter how much I tried to put it on the owner, and maybe got a change order for it, but it was really my fault.
Right. Yes, that's the best kind.
That's the best kind. Yeah.
So, all right. So business development, we're going to start from the jump. It's where the whole snowball starts going down the hill.
Ooh.
Right? So
overpromise and underdeliver.
What are some things that happen during the business development? You haven't won the job yet, but let's assume this isn't a negotiated kind of a deal. This is not a hard bid kind of thing. You don't get that opportunity.
All right.
So where does some things you have seen in the past or you see with our clients that during that phase, the genesis of the problem started?
Oh, yeah. Well, business development is overpromising.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it can go really south early on, is they start making promises to win the business,
right?
That it's going to be very hard to deliver on.
Yeah, they make promises that you and I have to keep.
Yeah, they make promises for people, or we're going to get this person on your job, but that person may not be available. They have the opportunity to set the relationship up for success or failure, and I think BD can certainly do just as much harm as they can do good.
Right. So like maybe not getting clarity in the program, like understanding what does the client even expect?
Yeah.
I'm making the assumption here that there's a relationship that you can actually sit down and have the what keeps you up at night conversation with a client.
I mean, when I think about business development, and let's say I'm a general contractor, so I'm courting developers to win or be shortlisted for a project, I start making claims about my company that I'm representing that might be very hard or even impossible for my company to actually fulfill on.
You're right. Okay. Right. Yep. So being honest about things up front.
Right. I might say we have, decades of experience with this. And what I really mean is I'm going to go hire 3 people that have 10 years of experience each, and that'll give me the 3 decades of experience that I need. Right. I might only have one of them right now, but I know 2 guys that might be willing to join my team if I win the project, but I'm not telling the client that.
Right, sure.
So I'm misrepresenting my client, myself, my company in those respects. So setting up, expectations that the client might have that I might not actually be able to fulfill on. Even if we win the job and then they ask us about it, well, where's the team with all this experience? You're like, well, who told you that? Oh, BD told me that.
So I'm wondering, let's think about this in terms of, the ideal client profile and a go no go system.
Okay.
If I'm a business developer, I'm expecting you could be qualifying not just the client but the project at this point. Mm-hmm. Are there funding triggers? What kind of contract structure are we going to be having here? These are reasons why it's like the best job you never got, right? You actually ask questions up front to understand, like, this is even not even a job we should be chasing.
Right.
Again, the premise is budgets get blown. It's because you don't ask the right questions on the front end to understand what is the deal, what are the expectations. Maybe we say no to this deal. That's a blown budget that never happened.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the old project manager trick of you don't know how many things I've solved.
Yeah.
Because I solved them before they happened.
That's right. That's right.
So, not getting clarity around, what does the owner expect? Funding triggers, schedule drivers, like what do they, they have some magic thing they think they're gonna hand you this job, and like in their mind, like, you're gonna be done by Christmas next year, right?
Well, they have to hand it back. You have to hand it back to them so they can start maybe getting tenants in,
Right.
whether those are residential or commercial tenants, so they can start making back their investment and start paying off their loans and all that
Right.
kind of stuff, and trying to get cash flow positive on a property, something
Right.
like that. And the timeline's unrealistic, but BD says, "Oh yeah, well, we can figure out a way to make that happen." I think some of this gets flushed out and resolved in the estimating process.
Well, it can. I think there's overlap there for sure. I guess my thought on this is that everything starts at some place. So I picked the first time you heard about the job, the first time you had an interaction with anybody that was a decision maker, you can start asking those questions. And maybe you don't have perfect knowledge at the beginning, but I'm funneling this toward a go, no-go decision of, are we even going to invest our time and resources to chase this job? Because if we don't and we go along happy and blind, we get a bad budget, we get a bad project, swinging the whole opposite direction here, and you end up with a crappy project that you might have could have solved or saved by having some conversations up front. So the takeaway here is, have honest conversations and try to start the conversation of pulling them out. So let's move to estimating, pre-construction estimating, where probably most people would say that's where budgets begin their descent into hell.
So I can begin. I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
A real story that I lived through. So I was, short version, I was working as a project manager on a project here in Georgia. It was a design build project. I was on the general contractor's team. I was overseeing all the electrical, including robotics and power for mechanical equipment and everything. It was for an auto manufacturing facility, tier 1 supplier plant over in Carrollton. And this is almost 25 years ago. So we'll leave the names off of this one just to protect the guilty. But so I'm working for the design build general contractor. It's an industrial setting, and I'm hired to go run the electrical side of the field. Superintendent and I went way back, so I got brought in to run this project. And we build this tier 1 supplier plant. And we start getting punch listed by the owners, by the engineering team for the owners of this factory. And they start saying that our equipment doesn't meet specifications, and we've never heard of these specifications. And they're saying it doesn't meet this standard.
Right.
And we're like, what is this standard? So we had a spec book. So I'm looking in the spec book with my team, and I'm going, there's no spec in here for the performance of these gauges, these things. It's built to the construction specs. We don't understand this. And they go, no, there's an engineering spec book. There's an engineering spec book?
There's a different spec book?
I'm like, could I have a copy of the spec book? So we call back to the home office in Detroit, where the engineers are all sitting.
Right.
And we go, we understand there's an engineering spec book. And they go, oh yeah, there is. I'm like, could you...
It's holding up my table leg right now.
Could you email that over to me? I mean, we had email. This was the 2000s. It was a big file. I think they might have FTP'd it to us or something like that. And I start printing it out on the copier in the trailer. It's literally hundreds of pages. The beauty of it is that this engineering spec book was literally initialed by the president and the engineering manager of my company.
Oh, geez.
And then they had blatantly gone and not designed the system and ordered materials and ordered sensors and stuff like that met the engineering spec that they had signed. So we built the whole plant to an inferior spec.
Oh, man.
And it was a $25 million job that cost $50 million when we were done, because we had to rip it apart. We had to change things out. We had to literally cut and extend curing ovens that ran parts through them. It was
like, you're down to, do we have the right gauge wire?
we had not built ovens that were long enough to achieve cure temperatures and durations at the speed of the conveyor. That the speed of the conveyor had to run to meet the production rates.
Yeah.
The whole thing took an extra 2 years and cost $25 million. I got paid,
Sure, yeah.
but my company lost $25 million on that job. It cost twice as much to build, and that budget got blown because somebody in engineering / estimating did not do the job that they were supposed to do and did not follow a spec book.
Right,
That
so
was
they-
the worst case example I've ever been through.
So
it was like
it was either gross negligence or just incompetency.
yeah.
Okay.
Or they gross negligence, like, or maybe they were like, we can get away with this,
Right.
but they couldn't get away with it. They didn't get away with it.
Like when you used to try to swap out light fixture specs on me,
Yeah, I mean,
something like that.
I mean,
it
do you
lights up.
really need Lithonia? I have the Chinese version for half the price, and
Right.
nobody's going to look at the ballast. And
It doesn't
know.
need a UL listing. Come on.
It's not like it's in a wet location. It's in a hallway. It'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, that's the worst example of where I've seen things go completely sideways. That was a real world example that I lived through.
So that falls into a couple of different categories. There's maybe, I don't know if that's a constructability review, but it's some sort of a review process of, do we have this right? You know, like a peer review process maybe, or something like that.
Right.
Where it's like, there's somebody over here in a vacuum putting this whole thing together, and somebody else inside the company or inside the company but unrelated can look at it and say, do we have this covered?
Right. Well,
That's had experience in that type of work, whatever.
Right. The other thing was the estimator and project manager for this project had gotten together, and they had estimated the job based off of the designs that were done by engineering, and then the project manager had set the budget for the job based on those designs.
Sure, yeah.
And the buyout. So he was then buying out the subs and buying out all the equipment and the materials and buying out everything we were supposed to buy out based on the budget he built based on this inferior design that the engineers had screwed up. And the whole thing just fell like dominoes.
So in that case, you're in a design build environment. So there's multiple handoffs. Whereas in a standard GC or GC and sub, there's drawings or some version of documents.
Spec kind of job.
Yeah, maybe even if it is negotiated or GMP, there's still, somebody gives you something. There's maybe one handoff. But in this case, it's a design build. There's double the opportunities to screw up because you design it poorly, either by forgetting or being negligent.
Yeah, there were probably some peer review processes that were pencil whipped or bypassed or just kind of.
It could be as simple as there's a process. There's a lack of risk review. So like, okay, we're going to make this decision at some level.
Right.
We're going to attempt to make fee up or do something, and ignore the spec because we think we can get away with it. And let's say we've gotten away with it 10 other times. Let's say there's history. But then you forget to tell somebody this is the strategy.
Right.
So that you can then work to execute that strategy. In your case, it was a total surprise.
Yeah.
Which means you did not execute the strategy that somebody.
I don't know if there ever was a strategy.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here.
Well, the interesting thing was there were failures in different levels. Like it was like, okay, so they got a sensor that didn't quite meet the spec that they had asked for as far as the brand, but it was doing the job.
Sure, right.
It was able to get the readings we needed to make the system work. But like the length of the ovens, that was a miss on the design side. Like they did not design these things to get. They had to get to a certain temperature. You had to have a certain temperature rise, and then it had to hit a certain temperature to cure the paint on the parts.
Yeah, too small of a
cure window kind of thing.
Too small of a space. It spikes, gets too hot, can't stay.
Right. So they have to bring it up more gradually, and it has to dwell at that temperature on a moving conveyor. And knowing the speed of the conveyor that had to hit the production rates, this is a multi-factored equation, and they just screwed it all up. And it was a catastrophe.
So let's think about it in terms of kind of your standard. I hate to say vanilla, but your standard vanilla design bid build or design budget build kind of process. What are some of the things in estimating pre-construction where we've either seen clients or we've ourselves made mistakes where the budget just, it doesn't have to be the whole budget. It could be just a line item or two.
There's your standard, there's the standard mistakes that get made in estimating. They take something off wrong. They miss something on the drawings. Right. They misread a detail. They take off, 8x4 instead of 4x8, and they just miscount the number of feeders, or they missize. The wire size doesn't get done correctly, or we try and use a substitute fixture, and then we think that's going to get approved, so we budget with the substitute fixture, and it goes in, and then the architect comes back and says, this is not approved, you have to go with the spec fixture, and now we've already signed a contract, so now we have to spend more money to get this fixture that the alternate was not approved, and we didn't carry that in our contract or something like that. You use the wrong labor factor when you're figuring out how many hours you need to do something, and you just do your the standard stuff that happens when you're doing an estimate that could go wrong.
Right.
Nothing necessarily negligent, is just a miss. We're human.
Well, and I think that's the point, right? So the story you told was probably negligence.
Yeah.
Or it walked a really tight line. Most of the time, it's not okay. It can be massive mistakes, but it's human error. It's just basic transposing a number, getting interrupted while you're doing the takeoff and missing a whole page of stuff.
I'll give you an example from our past, the Lenbrook job. There was that whole thing about having to move a generator.
Yeah.
And the estimators figured, they just said, well, I'm going to throw like 160 hours at it and probably 20 grand for equipment and materials and rental equipment to move this generator.
It costs more than that.
Like, disconnect it, pick it up, move it, set it down, repipe it, and put it all back together. And they just kind of swagged it, right? Yeah. They put in some numbers for that, and we didn't know any better, so we carried that in as our budget.
Yeah.
And then we get into
I guarantee
the
you
job.
lost on that line item.
We get into that job, and then we go and really start putting a plan together. And this is the difference between estimating and reality and project management. When we really figured out what it was going to take to move that generator, to disconnect it, move it, reconnect it, provide the backup power in the interim with a standby generator and all this kind of stuff, it was like 3 times what they had estimated. And I don't know if there's any way they could have known what it was really going to cost in the estimating phase. They took a shot at it, they missed, and that's something we had to deal with, and it's not on the owner.
So it's interesting. So I remember very well us going through that, and it was also the transformer that had to get moved too. Same pit.
Yes.
Truth is, we didn't have any idea either at the GC side. That was little side story. That was the project. The moment that I learned, remember Otis, our senior superintendent, Otis taught us. He came in and he asked, so what's the plan for getting that transformer out of that hole, and that we're going to move the whole, all the gear and everything out. And we were kind of like, basically our answer was, we don't have any idea. We'll figure it out later. That's not how we said it, but that's what we meant. We're going to let that just float until we have to deal with it, was basically our answer. We were young PMs. We didn't know what we were doing. Still couldn't believe they gave us the reins of a job that size. And he looked us me and the superintendent square in the eye, and he said, okay, this is the point where you need to recognize that you are about to fuck up. And you identify those emotional moments on a project where in your heart you don't have an answer, or you've dealt with it before and you don't want to deal with it again, so you keep pushing it off. He said, you've got to have some integrity to yourself, to the project, everybody, to the client, and tackle that shit. Find the hardest thing you can possibly find on that job and take it to the ground on day one. Because I guarantee you this is going to take, I don't even know how we're going to do this. And it's going to take longer than I think it's going to take. We're attacking this now.
Yeah.
Best lesson I was ever taught.
Eat the frog.
Yeah.
Do the hardest thing first. Everything's easier after that.
Yeah.
Procrastination. What does they say? That bad news rarely gets better with age.
Yes, it's like fish.
Yes. And house guests.
Yes. So, all right. So that's actually a really good transition. So we've talked about business development opportunities, estimating, pre-construction. Those things kind of flow together.
Design, all that. Yeah.
There's lots of opportunities we miss as contractors and trade contractors, specialty contractors, on fucking up a budget. Sometimes it's just you have to take a swag at stuff. So that transformer, and we figured it out on the field thing, is a great transition. Okay, during course of construction, buyout, actually you're in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other? So there's opportunity there for budgets to go bad.
Oh yeah. Oh.
So let's say you had a good budget.
Let me dig into my Rolodex and think about all the ways I've screwed up.
All the things we just said, you did the opposite. You did a really good job planning. But now we're in construction.
Yep.
So now you could still make mistakes. What are those?
Oh, well, great example I have from earlier in my career. I was doing a electrical project at Texas Instruments in Texas, living in Dallas, and I'm running a project. It's like a $4 million job. It's got substation work and it's got lighting work, and it's in a chip facility, and I am dialed in on this job. I've got this thing all figured out. I've got the projections done. I've got my budget done. Things are tracking well, and I thought I'm going to land this plane and it's going to be great. And then the last 60 days of the job, I had not been keeping a close enough eye on my production rates.
Yeah, there you go.
And my labor crew size, and my superintendent's watching the schedule, and he's like, we only have so much time left, and we have to get all these lights installed in this facility, and they're on strut and strip lights and all this stuff. And basically, he says, I need more workers. So we call up the office, and
I need 25 guys.
I need 5 more electricians, and then I need 5 more electricians. And next thing I know, I've got an extra $20,000 a week going out in payroll to hit production rates to get this job done on time. And my labor budget goes from profitable to negligible to negative. I am now overspent on labor. And that was the one thing I hadn't been keeping my eye on. I had bought all my material. Everything was showing up. I had subs that were in there that were doing stuff. I had cranes I had to rent to move big, huge transformers around. We were in manholes, pulling feeder wire through manholes around the perimeter of this building. Like, all the really complicated stuff was ticking along, and hanging light fixtures cost me an extra like $75,000 more than I budgeted, and blew the profit on the job. Went from a 20% job to a 3% job in 6 weeks.
This is an interesting exercise in perspective. So we know that general contractors, although there has been a trend to do more self-perform in the last, say, decade or so, generally general contractors do not self-perform a lot. They don't track labor budgets the way, especially in trade contractors, have always had to track, right? Sitting on this side of the table as the general contractor, I'm thinking, you're telling the story, and I'm like, this sounds fucking awesome. There's elbows and assholes everywhere. Like, there's just freaking ants all over my job site, and I'm assuming somewhere in there was a GCPM or some kind of program manager going, you better hurry up. You might want to get some more manpower. Do you have more manpower? Can you put more manpower out here?
What's even worse, we were working direct for the owner. There was no GC to go to. It was just me and the client, and there was no opportunity for a change order because the lights were the lights. Right. They were on the drawings. We were just trying to do our scope of work. We just hadn't been monitoring. I think what happened when I did the root cause analysis, the estimators underestimated how difficult it was going to be to hang all this strut and put all these lights in and pipe it all together. So they had undershot my labor budget to go and install this material. It should have been at a higher labor factor. It should have had more hours. On top of that, because there was all this, just call it stuff, packaging, there was all this stuff
in the way,
all this owner's material in the way, it took us longer to move things around and just made the work go a little bit slower. And we didn't ever catch that because we were monitoring the really complicated, high voltage substation work on the exterior of the plant. And we just had this crew inside just running lights. It was like 60,000 square feet of manufacturing space that we had to light in this expansion. And that was the one thing we thought, well, that's the easy stuff. We'll just let them do that. We'll focus on the complicated stuff. And that's what wound up biting us in the ass.
So touching back to the pre-con estimating, that's one of those examples of, now look, I get it. Sometimes you're competing in a way that you just, you could think of lots of things that could go wrong and you don't get to have all of them because you have to win the work. But in a perfect scenario, and that's where we're living right now, in this podcast universe of we get to make whatever up we want.
Sure.
Ideally, that that was a discussion had. You know, that as you're planning the work, you're like, okay, when I get to the point that we're hanging the fixtures, am I going to have am I going to wide open floor? Or have you started bringing FF&E in already? Or I built a Kroger once and I was hanging fixtures and laying floor at VCT at the same time and had electricians up on scissor lifts bitching at me all day. Like, fuck, I'm supposed to be hanging here and you're putting VCT like right up underneath me. I'm like, I'm behind. So not the best idea. It wasn't the best idea I ever had. But ideally you get to plan that stuff and you think it through and, you know, then you make business decisions eventually. On the GC side, I'm thinking about like, you know.
I've been going back to our previous episode about whose budget is harder to manage. I don't know how you lose money in construction.
Well, so I'll tell you how. I've said this a couple different times on this podcast. I love repeating this. As a project manager, as a general contractor, buying out your trade partners, vendors, suppliers, etc., the biggest mistake you could make is make it a binary discussion. The only thing you and I are talking about is money. Okay, I need, you know, you estimated this at, I don't know, $5 million. I need you to do it for 4.5. And you're smart, so you're going, well, where am I supposed to cut that out of? Like, I thought this through, did you? And I'm just doing this binary number thing. Somehow you're supposed to just do me a favor by taking $500,000 out of your deal. An alternative to that, a better way to approach that would be to think there's like at least 7, maybe there's more, but there's at least 6 or 7 different levers you can pull to go through a buyout. You should be talking about the dollars, of course, but that's a function of the scope of work. So make sure that your scope is well covered. Do they have everything you need them to have? Do they have more? Maybe in this example, I think that you've got $500,000 too much scope, but I haven't said so. I just want you to give me money. Or that's what you think you heard. So there's the scope. Do you have too much scope, too little scope? Let's get that right. There's the manpower, supervision, schedule, all the things that are associated with that to get that scope done. Let's talk about that stuff.
You sure you don't want the Chinese light fixtures?
Maybe. Let's talk about it. Right, exactly.
You want to save some money?
This is an exact.
Let me use the VE option.
Depending on the scope and the situation with the client, you know, maybe we can have that conversation and go, you know what, that is not in stone. It's an allowance right now. So let's go talk. We'll put that aside. Let me go talk to the client about it. We talked about supervision. There's manpower. I know you and I had this discussion when we were negotiating stuff. How many guys do you think you're going to use to rough a floor? Are you going to prep the load centers at the shop and bring them in and just hang them on the wall? Like, how are you going to do that? Not to get more money out of you necessarily, although that may be what ends up happening. It's more about, well, maybe I find out that you think you're going to rough a floor a lot faster than I thought you're going to. I can take that knowledge to my next bid buyout meeting and know that there's float in that schedule because the electrician just committed to 5 days instead of the 7 I have. So there's that. There's safety expectations, quality expectations. So there's a bunch of stuff you can talk about. I mean, and maybe that saves you money. I guess
you give me a better location for lay down.
In a perfect world, it saves everybody some money. It may save you money. You might go, well, shit, he expects something that I didn't think I had. I've got a little bit in this. I can give him he's going to let me land everything on the floor. I don't have to lug it up the buck hoist every day. Yeah, dude, you get it. Yeah, that was always in my plan. Oh, that saves me a little bit of money. Just in labor alone, I can help him out on this other thing. So if nothing else, it gets you a relationship where the two of you have planned this out, shake hands, and then you go kick ass together. And that's how your and my relationship started.
Yeah.
Now that was a large scope and worked the shit out of it, but that's what we did basically. All 12 of us at the table or whatever it was. So, okay.
And then Rick didn't follow any of that.
No.
That's why Rick got let go and I got brought back in.
So there's a couple of other things during course of construction where trade contractors and GCs alike blow budgets.
Most often in my experience, it's lack of coordination between the trades. One trade gets behind and then it pushes other trades behind and then everybody gets compressed and everybody, then we have a schedule to meet, like the framers behind, so nobody can rough in the walls and stuff like that till the framer's done. Everybody gets back. Everybody's compressed. Now you start asking us to work overtime. There's no way to go back to the owner for any of that money, and we have to work it out internally to figure out, well, who's gonna pay for all this, or we fall behind on our own, and then we have to pay our own guys overtime to get caught back.
That scenario could also happen because you failed to recognize a change.
Sure, there's
a change happened.
Something had changed, and we didn't submit a change order. Now we have to spend more money, but there's no more revenue coming.
Right.
You said this wasn't the owner's responsibility. What if it's
right.
owner change?
Well, that's possible, yeah.
Right.
But I'm just saying the owner made a change, and you don't pursue it. It could be all kinds of reasons why. That's going to blow your budget.
Yeah.
In this example, I'm just thinking, I'm heading a place with this.
There's a phrase we used to use a lot, which was means and methods.
Yeah.
So whether the estimator estimated it one way and then the superintendent decides to do it a different way, means and methods changed, that can have a cost impact that could blow the budget, could save money as well. Sometimes the people in the field, the installers, don't realize that the superintendent planned to do it one way and they do it a different way. Things get rerouted, there's rework that has to happen. The quality isn't there, so now you have to go back and do it again.
Right.
That's another way that we lose money on the job, is our self-inflicted damage.
Poor quality assurance.
Poor quality assurance. They do something wrong, they wire stuff wrong, a screw gets put through a piece of conduit and it pinches a wire, and now we've got to rip it all apart, figure out where it's damaged, replace it, all that rework. Another way we lose money is punch list. We don't do a good job of quality through the job. And at the end, the painter's going back to do patch and repairs, or sheetrock has got to go back and do patch and repair, and then the painter's got to do another coat. And the quality can kill you on a job because it all shows up at the punch list.
Yeah, eventually.
And then if you had figured,
and God forbid it's behind a wall, like a critical
multi-trade,
something doesn't work. Like you turn on the switch and nothing happens.
Or you turn on the switch and the wall catches on fire.
Oh yeah. Or you turn on the switch and the faucet comes on.
We have seen them miswired where you're supposed to flip the switch and the light goes on, and instead the garbage disposal spins. You're like, oh, that's not wired right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, there's hundreds of ways to lose little bits of money on a job in the construction phase. So that's probably I always say that's where the most risk on a construction job lies from a financial performance standpoint, because you can catch stuff that business development screwed up. You can catch stuff that the estimator screwed up. But once you're on the job site, now it's performance anxiety. Yes. Like you've got to perform the whole way through and produce at a regular pace. And you got to watch for all these different ways that you could lose money to really navigate it successfully.
So this is where I'm taking this whole thing. This is kind of here's the payoff. Everything we've talked about today, at least let's say there's kind of two sides of this. There's the business development, pre-con, up to start construction. We talked a little bit about, peer reviewing and getting a good plan. And you're right. You could have a good plan and still have a bad job.
Sure.
Where all of this to me is going is developing means, be it quality tracking, cost tracking, and having a system or a process in place to be, the faster you figure out where you might have a problem, the better chance you have to fix it. Guaranteed.
Yep.
Now, maybe you can't fix it. Maybe you find out very early, holy shit, we've got a big problem here. But at least, yes, there's a dumpster fire. However, would you rather know in month 3 than find out in month 12, 14, 16, 18?
Well, I want to know as early as possible so that I can put the fire out.
Right.
Before it gets
mitigate, maybe make it go away. Maybe give yourself an opportunity to recover.
Sure.
It's possible sometimes. So that's where I'm going with all of this, is that there's the solution to this, I guess, at the end of the day. There's all kinds of opportunities for us to fuck up. But where are the opportunities for us to put Band-Aids on or fix our fuck-ups? And most of that comes down to a cost tracking, having labor tracking, production, material installation, if that's your thing, just job cost in general tracking, and looking at and projecting to say, do I have enough labor budget? And really thinking about that in a incremental way.
one of the best bosses I ever had in this industry taught me. I think it was actually on that Texas Instruments job. Because the profit starts fading at the end of the job, and I have to go to him and explain I'm going to overspend on labor, and he goes, you didn't lose this money at the end of the job because you lost this money at the beginning of the job. You just didn't see it till the end of the job.
Bingo.
Because that tsunami wave that was under the radar, it's always coming.
Yeah, it was always there. You just didn't know it.
Once time ran low and the shore started coming up, then it surfaced.
Yep.
He goes, but you actually lost that money in the beginning of the job because you didn't think it through the whole way. And no matter how good you were at watching everything else, that was the thing you weren't watching. And that was the hidden wave that was coming to wipe out the profit.
That's an outstanding metaphor. That wraps up this whole thing. That's the point. Is you've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 25 opportunities through an entire project cycle to have a good plan, pay attention, plan the work, work the plan.
Like Otis said, the thing that you don't understand the most is where you need to go look first.
Yes.
And start sorting out and putting a plan together for all of it. And I mean, that ultimately is like the golden lesson here. It's like, go get it all figured out on paper because it's really expensive to figure it out in the field.
Yes, I totally agree. Excellent.
That was a fun topic.
That was good. That was really good. I enjoyed that very much.
Yeah, thanks. So that's our episode of Construction Hot Takes for today. Listen to us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, like and subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thank you.